Good evening, everybody. Let me just offer two opening comments, and then we can go to questions. So, number one, my reaction to the failure of the motion to override the governor on Senate Bill 1229, which is the arbitration bill, is that this will be a significant step by the governor in what I would fear will be an effort to bring down wages and standard of living for middle-class families. Number two, the governor said during the campaign that it may be necessary to shut down government in order for him to achieve his goals. And that was the reason for so much support for the bill and then for the motion to override, because the enactment of this particular bill would have provided no strikes, no lockouts, there would have been labor peace. And so, again, 2 points. I am concerned that this will be a significant step by the governor in his efforts to lower wages and the standard of living for middle-class families. And number two, he did make statements in his campaign about government shutdowns. And this particular bill would have avoided government shutdowns going forward. So questions?
Representative Duncan said he told you and staff last week that he wasn't going to be here for this vote.
Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. I mean, I had a personal conversation with Mr. Duncan at the end of our caucus last week, and that was not the case.
What did he say?
I'm not going to go into all of that. Mr. Duncan made his decision, and any questions you have relative to Mr. Duncan, you should direct to Mr. Duncan.
Do you know how Mr. Duncan could have been recognized as present by the House when he wasn't here, how that happened?
No, I wouldn't know how that happened.
Did you expect that all 71 Democrats would be here and would vote for an override?
That was our expectation, yes.
A couple other folks peeled off or didn't vote for it.
Because they knew what the result would be.
So if your expectation was that all 71 would be here, Mr. Duncan indicated last week that he would be here.
Yeah, that's the case. Yeah.
Just now getting here, why did you call the bill today?
The bill sponsor chose to call the bill. You might want to talk to him about that.
Did Esther Golar have to go to the hospital tonight?
She did.
And is she okay now?
She's on the floor. That's what I know about the situation.
What sent her to the hospital?
I don't know. Maybe she had some time with you.
How do you
Well,
think
that's
this?
contagious, you know.
How do you think this vote will impact future elections and just the overall politics?
Well, as I said earlier, my concern with the failure of this motion is that it will be a significant step by the governor to lower wages and the standard of living for middle-class families. That's my concern. In addition, during his campaign, he did talk in terms of the possibility of a government shutdown in order to achieve his goals. And that was a purpose of the bill, to eliminate lockouts, eliminate strikes, bring on labor peace.
But again, how do you think this will impact the politics?
I have no idea.
Why shouldn't people consider this a major victory for the governor over a supermajority in the House?
Well, my concern is what I've stated, that I'm not thinking about legislative victories or defeats. I'm thinking about a significant step toward an effort to lower wages and the standard of living. That's my interest, and that was my goal in working on behalf of the bill and on behalf of the motion to override that. You should ask the governor that question. That's a good question for the governor.
You said this ends the safety from a potential lockout or strike. Do you see that that's where these negotiations are now headed?
My knowledge of the negotiations is not the best, and I'm sure you'd want to talk with some of the people from the AFSCME union that are in the building, and I'm sure they'd be willing to give you their opinion on where the bargaining is today.
Given that we're in continuous session, is this issue dead now, or could it be resurrected?
I believe that tomorrow is the last constitutional day for this motion to be called.
But could you bring some other alternative proposal, or is there one that's being considered?
Not to my knowledge.
Have you, as a speaker or majority leader,
Well,
minority leader, ever
The
done
bill
a-
could be reintroduced.
have you ever done a caucus position?
No, never, I never attempted a caucus position.
What do you think of the House Republicans going on this week?
I have no comment.
Mr. Speaker, how is this loss rate in your long career?
Charles, my concern is what I've said, that it could be a significant step by the governor to lower wages and the standard of living. I mean, that's my focus. That's what I was all
But
about
isn't this a political
in supporting the bill and in supporting the motion to
defeat? Isn't this a
override.
political defeat for you? I mean, you.
I
you
wouldn't be concerned with political wins or political losses. We're involved in a budget impasse that affects millions of people all across the state. I'm concerned that the state adopt a budget that would help and protect middle-class families. The spending plan that we sent to the governor helped and protected middle-class families because it provided help and support for local schools, local police and fire, local road programs. To the extent that that support is not available to those units of government, puts more pressure on them and their local tax
But
base.
you use politics to advance the cause of middle-class families. That's what you do. And this was a setback, wasn't it? I mean, which you've already conceded that it's a setback.
Well, as I said to you, we're involved in a long struggle here in the legislature. We're currently in a budget impasse, but we're continuing to work to adopt a spending plan for the state that would help and protect middle-class families by providing support for local police and fire, local schools, local road programs. That's what we're all about. And today was not a successful day, but there's tomorrow and there'll be later days.
Do you have any comment on representative juries and no vote?
You ought to speak to Mr. Drury about that.
Oh, please, no.
Well, you didn't have 71 votes, you didn't have 70 votes, and so one might think, well, why even call it?
The bill sponsor chose to call the bill.
Is it
Did you advise against calling the bill?
I didn't offer any opinion.
Does this disincentive, do you fear that the governor will, this is a disincentive toward moderation and reasonableness, that he's emboldened by this victory? He stuffed it down the Democrats' throat, and
Yeah.
why should I be moderate?
His advocacy of non-budget issues, to me, would take all of this into the extreme, take it away from moderation. As I've said consistently, the number one problem facing the state of Illinois is the budget deficit. I think the Moody's rating agency spoke to that 1 or 2 days ago. Number one problem facing the state is the budget deficit. We ought to be about the business of adopting a budget that would help and protect middle-class families. I don't feel that you can just cut your way out of the budget deficit problem. I think it has to be a balanced approach, some cuts, some new revenue. The legislature has already passed a bill to the governor, which is Senate Bill 788, which would provide for a $400 million reduction in the Medicaid program. So the legislature has acted to do cuts and would be willing to do more cuts. But I think that realistically, we have to acknowledge you can't simply cut your way out of the budget deficit problem. You need some cuts, some new revenue. And to the extent that you advocate non-budget issues, you're taking this debate, you're taking this work into the extreme. You're taking it away from moderation. In order to be successful, we have to function in moderation and be reasonable.
Where
Speaker-
are we in terms of the budget negotiations? Obviously, this was an important bill, but have you met with the governor? Have the leaders met? I mean, are we at all anywhere close to a budget deal?
Well, I would hope that we're close to resolving our differences. I would hope, all right? In terms of my meetings, I'm prepared to meet with whoever.
But you haven't had one recently.
not recently.
Well, Mr. Speaker,
Why-
give it-
Are you, is he not offering to meet? Are you not asking to meet with him? Or I can't think that people in Illinois would say, just get in a room and work it out. Why not?
Well, I think that, as I've said, that we ought to be focused on the budget deficit. And if everybody were focused on the budget deficit, functioning in reasonableness, why, there'd be a far better chance to solve these
Were
problems.
there staff meetings on the budget recently that failed?
As far as I know, there have been some staff meetings.
That
Yes.
failed?
I wouldn't say that they failed. I mean, a staff meeting is a discussion, an exchange of information, exchange of ideas.
Have there been any serious meetings with the leaders, though, or the governor? You guys getting in a room, I think people are telling us, why aren't they in a room every day talking about this? Explain to the public why you aren't in a room every day with the governor or the leaders.
Because I'm spending time with you answering your questions.
I
That's
think
why.
they'd rather you be with the leaders.
No, if they knew you, they would say I should spend time with you.
Why should we believe, returning to my question, why should we believe that Mike Smitty has the autonomy to call this bill with no input from you?
Because contrary to what many people may think, in the House of Representatives, where bill sponsors want to call bills, they call their bill. Schmitty's the sponsor of the bill. He carried the bill when it passed on third reading. He's carried it through the motion to override. If the gentleman wishes to call his motion to override the governor, then he's entitled to do it. And that's what he did.
Speaker, I talked to some members today, Democratic members today, who had some override motions that failed, 70 votes instead of 71, because Representative Duncan wasn't there. And they were expressed some private anger that he wasn't in town. Is his committee chairmanship at all in peril?
Sounds like you're trying to make a story. I'm not
Well,
going to help you.
trying to Get a story.
I'm not going to help you.
Mr. Speaker,
I don't get upset about anything around here.
Jay Hoffman lost his committee chairmanship for less, don't you think?
Jay Hoffman's a great state representative, you know that,
Man,
right?
yes, but
Mr. Speaker, the governor continues to say that prevailing wages local government should be able to choose what they collectively bargain on in prevailing wages. Will you or your caucus ever vote for those things?
Let's not forget that the governor went on a roadshow advocating those positions and did very poorly. There were a few local governments that voted for his program, but the overwhelming majority voted against them. And he's actually pretty much dropped the different aspects of that particular roadshow.
When will you decide whether Representative Duncan retains his committee?
Is he in trouble at all in any way?
Is he in danger of losing?
Look, I'm not going to go there, okay?
Why not?
Because I'm not going to go there. I'm here to answer your reasonable
Well,
questions.
that's a reasonable question.
Speaker, Republicans said that this was a direct attack on a new governor that Democrats didn't really agree with. Why do you think the bill was necessary?
Because of my earlier comments, that number one, the failure of the motion to override is a significant step toward what might be an effort by the governor to reduce wages and the standard of living. Number two, during his campaign, the governor did talk in terms of possibly needing to shut down the government in order to accomplish his goals. This bill, had it been enacted into law, would have prevented a shutdown of the government. Those were my reasons for supporting the bill.
So do you think that there will be a government shutdown now? Do you think that there will be a
Well, I
strike?
certainly hope not. I certainly hope not.
You know, it could go the other way. Now the governor has, what you might argue is some kind of a win. Maybe that'll engender some good feelings. Maybe you can call him and say,
Yeah.
you've got a win, governor,
Yeah.
congratulations, let's get together.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
So what would it take to get these meetings? Does he have to drop the turnaround agenda with the 5 points?
I'm not going to issue directives to the governor. I've been very clear from the very beginning what my position is on all of these issues, okay? I've said on many occasions that we have taken significant steps to meet the governor halfway. Both chambers have passed bills which would change workers' compensation. I've directed Representative Hoffman, who was the sponsor in the House, to start talking with the appropriate senators to see if there can't be a reconciliation of the differences between the two bills, so that there would be a bill that would bring on changes in workers' compensation. The House has passed a bill that would privatize the operations of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. That's another effort to meet the governor halfway. The governor talks in terms of freezing property taxes. There have been 13 opportunities in the House of Representatives to vote for a freeze in property taxes. On all 13 occasions, close to 0 Republicans chose to vote for that bill. The governor requested that we suspend our anticipated COLA adjustment in legislators' salaries, and that we hold level the amount of compensation for per diem and for the housing allowance. We did that. And then lastly, the governor called upon us to pass a bill which would provide for an appropriation of the federal funds plus state money for McCormick Place. We did that. Now, in the House, we argued that there ought to be other items in that bill. We argued there should be the expenditure of state money for women with breast cancer and for children with disabilities. But the Republicans resisted that. And so we went forward with a bill which did federal funds and money for tourism in Chicago. So we've made significant effort to meet the governor halfway, and it's all a matter of record.
The state's already spending a lot of money right now, 90% of the budget's going out the door without the General Assembly. So how long do you think the state can sustain this spending before we finally run out of money?
I don't
Is
have-
it gonna get to that point?
I don't have the answer to that question, but you probably know that Representative Bradley in the Revenue Committee has been taking testimony over several weeks, trying to come to a determination precisely where is the governor on his commitments to spend money. So you will recall, the governor has said that he wants to reduce state spending. And we feel pretty confident that he's close to committed to spend about 100% of what he estimates will be available in this budget year. So he agreed to the court order in Cook County, which covered the federal consent decrees. He signed the appropriation for elementary and secondary education, and he went to St. Clair County to get an order to authorize the issuance of the paychecks. You add all that up, and you're very close to 100% of what he estimates would be available to spend in the current budget year.
Did you know that Representative Drury was going to vote no today?
I think the answer to your question is that had Mr. Duncan been here, there would have been 71 Democrats voting to override.
Can you address the question?
So did he change his vote because of the Tribune?
Good question to ask him.
Is there
When
any
you see him.
linkage- In your
Yes,
mind,
sir.
is there any linkage between Mr. Duncan's absence today and his vote earlier against the millionaires tax?
Well, I thought of that connection, and of course, I thought he should have been voting for the millionaire surcharge for education, and he should have been here today voting on this bill for labor peace. He's like all members of the General Assembly, he makes his own decisions.
Can you address whether or not leadership in the Democrat Party put any pressure on about their membership in the caucus and whether people would be expelled?
We don't do things like that.
So there wasn't any pressure from Democratic leadership to ensure that you got the 71 votes?
Well, I'm concerned about your use of the word pressure, and I'm concerned you might be trying to draw an analogy between Democrats and what the Republicans did in their caucus. And I said earlier, for as long as I've been a leader, which is a long time, and if you don't believe me, ask the Tribune, why I've never even attempted to develop a caucus position, never attempted.
Why a 3-week break between now and the next session day here in the Capitol?
We thought that you needed some relief from us.
Thanks,
I listened to you this morning on your program, you sounded a little tired.
You know, last time you said somebody was tired in this room, they ended up with having heart surgery. Careful about that.
Who was that?
Yeah, that was me.
Mr. Speaker, the number one problem in the state is the budget deficit. So in order to fix this problem, who makes the next move? Who is responsible? Do you
I
guys
think
have to
that-
pass a budget, or
I think-
can the governor do
I think that
something?
I think that the budget making is a matter between the executive department and the legislative department, and that's how it should be done. And I think eventually that is how it will be done. But
And
to
so-
answer your question, it's a matter between the executive and the legislative
And
department.
so why haven't you and the executive department, the governor, sat down, and please don't say it's because of me? Why haven't you been sitting down and meeting?
We've had plenty of meetings, we've had plenty of discussions. In the House, we've taken plenty of action to meet the governor halfway. I think that we've done our part.
When was the
Now-
last meeting with the governor?
The last meeting with the governor, I don't recall exactly when it was.
Within 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I'm not going there.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Dave,
I asked
you're jinxed. So you better go and
You better get a health physical.
you were going to get a stress test. It's like a month ago, I was in here, it's like, Rich, you look tired, like, a week later, I'm getting my heart operated on.
locked in with the dead cop. Now,
Yeah, you were gone there, weren't you?
no, here, I missed the
I'll get ready to walk out the door, and they called the,
What's, I mean, I assume
guy,
caucus.
got up and started talking
Is that
about a moment of silence before the guy who got shot. You
Is
know,
that
Rich Rauner.
I had to say, the guy wouldn't let me out, I had to sit in the street.
so,
Well, they had,
Silence?
boy,